Did you know the #1 beer fest in North America takes place right outside of Houston in Katy? Yep, the popular Wild West Brew Fest is happening March 27th through the 29th, and it's bigger than ever. They're going to have over 100 vendors and brewers, so your hands are going to be full with amazing beer and wines all weekend long. And the best part, the festival supports charitable organizations with their net proceeds, so you're doing some good while enjoying some brews. Tickets are on sale right now at wildwestbrewfest.com. That's wildwestbrewfest.com. The Imprint Margaret Root Brown Reading Series is proud to announce a night with two renowned poets, Jennifer Chang, who won the William Carlos Williams Award, and Naomi Shihab Nye, National Book Award finalist and former U.S. Young People's Poet Laureate. Hear them both live on March 3rd at the Alley Theater. Tickets are only $5 and free for students and seniors. There's also going to be a book sale thanks to Brazos Bookstore and a book signing where you can meet the authors. Visit imprint.org for more details. That's imprint.org. Before we get to today's episode, I want to give a shout out to Destination Bryan. They've sponsored this special rodeo week here on CityCast Houston, and I've had so much fun learning about Bryan. It's just a short drive from Houston, and of course, it has so much to offer, from dancing and live music to great barbecue, and of course, farm-to-table restaurants. Sign me up for that. And at the end of today's interview, I have our final rodeo tip, and I also have a conversation sponsored by Destination Bryan about why it's one of the best getaway spots for Houstonians. Today on CityCast Houston, it's been a busy week and the rodeo is right around the corner. So let's get into the news you need to know. It's Friday, February 28th. I'm Rahil Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. We are live at the KHOU studios, and I've got Deborah Duncan here with me. What's up, Deborah?
Hey, howdy.
Welcome back.
Did I say howdy and I went to UT? I actually said
it's okay,
howdy.
But it's rodeo season. I think it's totally fine.
Okay.
It's totally fine. It's rodeo week. It's been so much fun chatting about everything happening here in the city of Houston. I was actually on with you on Great Day Houston yesterday, and now we're taping live. So thank you for coming back on the podcast, by the way.
It was great because I just came around the corner. I'm right down the hall.
Yeah, and that's why we did this. We're like, we got to get Deb here. And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, or if you've got this text message, but there's a scam going on right now with Harris County toll roads. There's like this unpaid easy tag bill that everyone's been getting. Have you gotten a text message from them?
I have not gotten that text message, but that scam is like just plug in another company. It has been happening for a long time.
Yeah.
That was actually happening like with an AT&T bill at one time
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
It's so crazy. One of my friends got a text from the scammers. And look, people are going to scam, right? But if you're going to scam, be smart about it. The message came from an email address of sexymofo188@yahoo.com. I promise, I'm not making this up.
And guess what? He is sexy because he's driving a nice car, lives in a nice house because he's scamming all these people.
I'm telling you. So,
but it gets you though, because how many of us have driven through and thought, did it not read my license plate? Or have driven through knowing good and well you don't have a tag.
Hey, look, those HOV lanes where you can just do the paid version, right? If you're a solo rider.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, what if I just go through the HOV one? Are they really going to catch me? Like, how do they know there's not a kid in the back?
Well, they
right?
went to like, no cash.
Yeah.
I was driving up with my bag of quarters once and I got stuck. I was like, I don't have a tag, but I got some quarters. And
I
they're like,
know.
it was like,
I remember those days. I think we aged ourselves by saying we had
did,
quarters in there. But yeah, please be mindful of those scams and any scams. If there is a text message, you're like, wait, I don't know if I owe that bill or not. Just go to the official website and it will be there. That's what I always do. I never click on links, even if it's from an official number. I always just go to the website first. I'm like, if it's there, it's there. Yeah. Other big news this week. I don't know if you saw this or not, but there are some wild things happening in the city. And this week, it was rumored to happen when President Trump announced the major immigration crackdown, but U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, officially raided the Colony Ridge development in Liberty County, and 118 people were arrested, and charges and convictions of those arrested include criminal sexual conduct, homicide, theft, manslaughter, child sexual abuse, and other crimes. And this is, by the way, according to ICE on Twitter, aka X. So that's the information we know as of this taping. But, Colony Ridge has been in the news for a while now. It has received a lot of anti-immigrant rhetoric from Governor Abbott and other state officials during that election season. What did you think about this?
The hard part is this. It's like, this is when you talk about drilling down on something. When you say anti-immigrant, okay, no, I don't think most people want to be anti-immigrant. Anti-criminal, yes. Yeah. And it just happens that some of these immigrants are criminals. So when you put the two together, the one thing that sticks out to me, I'm just interested in the criminal part. And in that case, any one of us, if you did any of the things that you just talked about, any one of us should be rounded up and taken someplace, right?
Regardless, if you're immigrant or not, like, hey, if you committed a crime or you have this on your record, like, let's get them off the street and see what the justice system does with them.
I just think some people are just mixing the two and saying just because you're immigrant doesn't mean you're a criminal. And because you're a criminal doesn't mean you're only going to get in trouble if you're an immigrant. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the thing that people need to stop and separate and say exactly who was rounded up. Let's go a little bit deeper into our description of who these people are.
So there were 118 people arrested, and one name has been released because there was a warrant for that person's arrest. We're still waiting on the rest of the people that were arrested.
Exactly they did.
Right?
Yeah.
And get that information out fast, right? Because then what happens is you start getting those conspiracy theories again. And Colony Ridge, unfortunately, has been a part of a lot of conspiracy theories out there. People are suggesting that it's a hotbed for Mexican drug cartel activity, and local enforcement and DPS officials have said that that's not the case, actually. So this is how things get, rumors get started and it turns into hysteria.
Check your source. I mean, this is that whole thing of, let's go back to, social media. Social media, it's a game player today in terms of where people get their information. Unfortunately, it's not vetted information. Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely right. There are some people who like to stir the pot. Some people, I think, truly believe their opinion is fact just because they said it.
Yeah.
So who knows? Hopefully they do get to the bottom of it, and hopefully our criminal justice system, as you just stated, when you round somebody up and arrest them, that you can look and say, okay, what did they really do or not do? And then act accordingly after that. So hopefully that does happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's some truth to some of those stories, but not to all of them, possibly.
And our friends at the Houston Landing, by the way, they're covering this, so make sure you follow them. I've dropped a link in our show notes if you want to read more about this. But this is just another example of, again, national policies impacting local people, local communities. And
is that not
crazy
to say that if you're an American citizen with a warrant that you wouldn't be rounded up at some point too? Yeah. So I don't know. To me, the caveat is, are you guilty of a heinous crime? If that's the case, I don't care where you came from.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Oh my gosh, measles outbreaks. What is happening right now? Deborah, I know you've been talking about this, but I think wild right now.
Part of it is probably even a holdover from COVID, right? When we all kind of stayed home and people forgot about doing some things. We had pretty much eradicated measles in this country, at least. And I think people still forget that there are a lot of people who have not been vaccinated.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one. And hopefully, because there were so many questions swirling around the COVID vaccine, hopefully that doesn't make people think that that should be for all vaccines.
Yeah.
We do know that vaccines work.
Yeah, and for the first time since 2015 in Texas, a child has died in the USA because of measles. And there have been more than 124 cases that have popped up in West Texas, in a Mennonite community that is under-vaccinated. And now the fear, when I'm talking to parents in my oldest daughter's school and also my youngest daughter's daycare as well, we're all worried.
Yeah,
I know this is West Texas,
the thing is,
but
let that
you
be
never
a reminder.
know.
I literally had a young mother say to me, she goes, I'm not going to go and get my child vaccinated for all those things. She goes, what? Polio's not a big thing. I go, why do you think polio's not a big thing? And again, let this be a reminder to people that, the virus never goes away. It just lies in wait, right? Yeah. Trying to find a host. And so if you're not vaccinated for those things that we know that are proven, they've been proven for decades, then make sure you have those vaccinations. Again, I think a lot of us got relaxed over COVID, and then there were all these questions about the COVID vaccine. But that mother who came to me one day and said, why should I bother? Polio, is that really a problem? Well, it's not a problem because we get vaccinated. It will become a problem again if we stop those vaccinations. Yeah,
and I'm glad you brought that up because vaccination rates have declined nationwide since the COVID-19 pandemic. And most states are below the 95% vaccination threshold for kindergartners, all right? That's the level you need to protect communities against something like the measles outbreak. Now, if you are in a public school, you do have to get the vaccine series before your child is enrolled. So there is that. And, this is, again, one community in West Texas. But then, what happens if cases pop up in Houston or other cities?
And that's the hard part. Literally,
Yeah.
that virus is hunting for a host.
Yeah.
That's what viruses do by nature, is hunt for a host. And could it happen in Houston? Could it happen in, of course, because we're a mobile society. It used to be back in the day, it would take a lot for you to travel to another city. Today, it's you're 45 minutes away on an airplane. So they can hitch a ride.
Yeah.
So everybody just needs to be aware. Make sure you're up on your vaccinations and at the very least, know what the symptoms might be.
Mark your calendars, invite your friends, and of course, put on your dancing boots for the second annual Big Barn Dance Music Festival in Bryan, Texas. This weekend music festival is going to feature some of the best songwriters and pickers in country, bluegrass, and Americana music. It's happening March 27 to the 29th, and it's all an easy drive from Houston, just an hour and change. The festival starts with the Big Barn Dance Songwriter Series in downtown Bryan. Then you can head to the main festival grounds at Travis Midtown Park for a seated listening experience. And hey, if you like dancing at music festivals like I do, they'll have a big dance floor to put those boots to use. And check this out, on Saturday, the entire festival grounds will turn into a dance hall so you can two-step the night away under the open Texas sky. Learn more and get your tickets now at destinationbryan.com. That's destinationbryan.com. Have you ever seen a podcast host race in a camel race? No? Well, you will see it on March 7th because you can come watch me ride a camel at the Sam Houston Race Park on Friday, March 7th for their annual camel race. Yes, you heard that right. I'll be racing on a camel, so come cheer me on. It's at Sam Houston Race Park. They're going to have camel and ostrich races on March 7th and 8th, but they also have exciting thoroughbred racing action every weekend, so you can get in on the fun. If that's not enough, every weekend Sam Houston Race Park has live music, drink specials, amazing food, and one of the best Sunday brunches around. Sundays in March are definitely family fun days, so your entire squad will have a great time. Looking for some plans this Saturday, March 1st? Save on admission, food, and more with their popular Dollar Night. Race in for all the excitement because there's always something happening at Sam Houston Race Park. Check out shrp.com for more details. Speaking of public schools, HISD enrollment, it is down right now, Deborah. HISD lost about 7,400 students since last year, and this is the biggest drop in enrollment since the COVID year. And student enrollment has been dropping since 2019, 2020, that school year. Last 4 years, it's been like 2,000 to 3,000 students leaving per year, but 7,400.
And you use that word lost. Like, where did they go? Like, if we had a mass migration of people who decided, let's go to Chicago, everybody. Right? It's like, okay, we get it. But the thing is, where are they and where are they going? There are so many different things that come into play here. I had done several stories on truancy several years ago, and that's when we came up with the idea that, look, when your child keeps missing school, guess who's going to get in trouble? Mama and daddy. Yep. And let's see if we can get those kids into school. I don't know where we are in that truancy enforcement right now, but the sad part is how many people look at school as a babysitting service when it comes to elementary school. And then when you can leave a child home by themselves, it's like, you go to school, you go to school. You don't go to school, you don't go to school. I went to school in Asia. There are several countries around the world where an education is not guaranteed unless you can pay for it. Yeah. And I think the importance on education and making sure that the one thing your child can have if you don't have much of anything else is to get them in that class, get them educated so they can be more fit to climb out of poverty, if you will. Yeah. That's not the only kids who are missing from school, but more fit to climb out of poverty is to be educated enough to get a job that can pay you a living wage. But I think we struggle with that in this country. I think the education system is being beaten up pretty hard right now. Some of the things are legitimate claims.
Yeah.
People are definitely legitimate claims, but I look at my friends who are teachers and I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you get up every day. And that's in schools across the city, whether it's in schools where kids are seriously challenged with just getting a meal on the table or schools where they're affluent. It's hard.
Yeah, there's that factor. There's, students are leaving HISD to go to private schools. The offering of charter schools is also enticing for parents. And then there is just the outright, we don't like Mike Miles, the superintendent put in by the state during the state's takeover. And his new education system plan, that has been very controversial. We have an update on that I want to talk to you about here in just a second. But, there's various factors, and all of those are now combining to having one of the biggest, enrollment drops.
I would love to be able to see the specifics, because unfortunately, from several of the stories I've done, I have talked to a lot of parents who were like, what does it matter? And education matters. What does it matter? I think we've lost it. My parents were in their 90s when they passed away. So they went through the whole segregation moment. They went through the whole, we want a good education. We need that good education. We can talk forever about what Dr. Martin Luther King said about education, building character and all those types of things. But I think sometimes we just dismiss it as it's just,
And it truly does matter. Like each student loss, there's a bottom line impact to this, right? Because HISD receives just over $6,100 per student. And that's on the low end, right? Like when you add other factors in, it can reach $10,000, $12,000 per student. So the loss of this many students, that is about $45 million less per year for the district.
Not only
which
in money,
is already broke.
But where did they go? Now, if they all went off to a charter school and they're doing great, then yay, right?
Yeah.
But if we have straight up dropouts, we got a bigger problem coming our way.
And again, charter schools, a great option for parents. And then private school applications, by the way, surging. So are they applying to private school and getting in? And then, what happens with the private school vouchers that are coming up? Like, is that going to impact public education as well? So there's just so many factors here. But that, and Mike Miles, by the way, was challenged a little bit about this. Like, was it the state's takeover? Was it the new education system? Because schools that have the NES, as it's called, they did see a decline. And he actually had a quote. He said, the whole notion and the criticism around the takeover may have something to do with it. Who knows what the impact of not having a bond passed, this was when the bond did not pass during the election cycle, is going to do for the next year. There's a lot of outside factors related to that. And so we thought we would turn the corner a little bit, which we didn't.
Yeah, a lot of parents did not enjoy the chaos that went along with it. So I think that for some parents, it was like, look, you're a mess, and I don't want my kid in a mess, and so I'm going to pull my kid out. Right? We saw so many people stand on street corners and protest. You had the community, you had churches protesting, you had parents protesting, teachers. We actually had Mike Miles on Great Day Houston.
Yeah.
And
what'd you think of him? Because we've had him on too.
He's a smart human being. Let's see, he went to West Point, right? He even said to me, "Whatever you ask me, I'm ready for." And he was ready for. He has an answer for it. And there are some things, again, going into some stories that I've done in the past, and then some people I know. There are some things that he's right. There are things that needed to be cleaned up because when you have a district that big, I mean, we're the seventh largest in the country and the largest in Texas. Yep. That's hard to manage. There was some stuff going on. Okay, you take care of that. However, there are lots of people who really took issue with the fact that you had great teachers, great administrators who were let go. And they were like, why are you getting rid of the good ones? And he led us to believe that there are other things that you had to look at. I don't know what those other things are. That's where transparency becomes really important.
You go back to Mike Miles, and he answers everything you ask him when he's doing interviews.
There's a reason why they hired him. He's good at it.
He's really good at that. But I think if there was just a little compassion, if there was just more understanding about why parents were feeling a certain way about the state takeover, how he could have handled that relationship, the way he talked to them, the way he delivered information, it could have been so different. But
a lot of people are caught off guard because they had seen improvements before the state takeover. The state mandated, this is what you got to do. And they said, okay, we're getting after it. And there were some market improvements, but still the state took over.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling when you vote for a school board, you think you live in a democracy, and all of a sudden, guess what happens? We're getting rid of the school board. We're getting rid of the superintendent, and we're putting people in charge. It's tough for parents to accept that. It's frustrating. So when you come in, you got to be a little bit more compassionate. And it seems like every time they take a step forward, right? Like they say, hey, the NES is actually working in certain aspects. Then they take a step back. Like they did this thing called the Destination Transformation 2025 Educational Summit, where the district invited leaders from other districts and also from charter school networks to sell them on the new education system. That costs money to the district. What benefit is that for the parents? Like, this seems like It's one of those things where Mike Miles is like, look, NES is working. Let me just show it off. It's almost like an ego stroke,
And
right?
y'all can
Because
get it too.
the HIC is not going to make money by subscribing out or licensing new education system plan. So, like, why do this? Parents are upset. It seems like every time they take a step forward, HIC takes a step back and parents get upset.
Yeah. And a lot of parents are like, why don't we just be more aggressive about having parents in the room, having students in the room? I mean, the front line with students, what do you think some changes that we need to do, right?
Yeah.
And those baseline educators who are in that classroom every day. And I was told this happened, and when I say this happened, that they were able to voice their concerns without fear of losing jobs. And voice their concerns, and that their suggestions would be taken seriously. But a lot of those people who voiced their concerns said, "I don't see it. I don't see the change. I see us being dictated to what needs to work when we know what can work. If you untie our hands and allow us to do what we know how to do to teach students."
When I'm thinking about the weekend and what to do, there's one spot that's always on my list: downtown Houston. My oldest daughter loves going to downtown because there's this excitement that you only feel when you're in the center of the city with its parks and restaurants and theaters and so many events. Houston's original neighborhood, downtown, truly has something for everyone. I'm talking about meetups for pups and people, blanket bingo, free movies in the park, and don't forget amazing festivals. There's always something new, like their Black History Month celebration at Market Square Park and Galentine's Day at Trebley Park. It's time to experience Houston like never before by visiting or revisiting downtown Houston. Start planning your next adventure in downtown by heading to downtownhouston.org. Downtown Houston, get energized and revived.
This episode is brought to you by Peacock. The new Peacock original documentary, Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy, dives deep into the beloved actor's rise to fame and his tragic death. 5 people, including Perry's personal assistant, 2 medical doctors, and an alleged Hollywood drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, were charged with conspiracy to illegally provide Perry with the ketamine. Explore the details of the case in this heartbreaking special, streaming now only on Peacock.
All right, Deborah, it's time for our moment of joy. We're going to end the week on a high note. And look, I wanted you on to talk about all the stories, but the real reason I wanted you here is because you are my go-to rodeo source. I know you've got some wild stories.
I want to learn how to rope and
see, there you
go.
We've got the cook-off starting tonight. It actually started last night on Thursday, and it's going to be going on tonight. It is one of the marquee events kicking off the rodeo, and I know you've got some crazy stories.
Oh boy. Okay, so here's some tips. If you have your brand new leather outfit that you bought and you've been saving money for 2 years to buy it, do not wear it to the cook-off because it will be smoked up.
Oh, no.
Yeah, don't wear it to that one. No, with some rodeo stories. When I first moved here in 1998 to do the Deborah Duncan show, they were like, "Oh, this is so fantastic. We want you to ride in the opening parade." And I was like, "Oh, okay, this is great. Yeah, awesome." And I said, "What will I be riding?" "A steer." Well, I was working for Disney at the time, and literally they were like, "She's a commodity. We don't put commodities on steers." Right? And so I called them back, and they said, "No, this steer is so sweet. It's so, and you went to UT, and steers are cool and the whole bit." And so when I got there, yes, this steer was very sweet. The steer was about 150 years old.
Wait, what's the retirement age of a rodeo steer?
His name was Freckles. and Freckles was just like, would take one step. And I thought, okay, so it's not going to be dangerous because it's a wild steer. It just may fall over and just decide to quit life right at that moment with me on top of it.
You know what? I'm actually riding a camel next weekend, okay?
You're right.
Yeah, I'm racing at Sam Houston Race Park. I am going to be racing on a camel.
Just make sure it's not 150 years old, but make sure it's not a teenager either.
No, I need a teenager. I'm trying to win. Okay. I'm trying to win this camel race. Okay. That's what I'm trying to do. The rodeo just means so much to the city as well. It is our marquee event. This is the biggest thing we have all year long where everyone comes in but it's also a celebration of the city because there's thousands of volunteers. Who
it's
just
like
put
about
their time in.
35,000
Yeah.
people that take part in this. And it is so cool to see. However, I will say one of my friends who is like, he's a true cowboy. He goes, yeah, you get the lawyers coming in, the doctors coming in, and when a cow gets loose, they don't know what to do. there was a pig that went on the loose one year, and they were like, oh my gosh, there's a pig on the loose. What do we do? What do we do? Like, get out of the way.
That's a great title for this episode. If a cow gets loose, they don't know what to do.
Well, they called it Johnny Football a few years ago, right? When something got loose. But but you're right. The volunteers and a lot of the work is not pleasant work. Breeders' greeters, for example, they're responsible for greeting every single animal that comes in, making sure they have their veterinarian papers, and the kids assigned who are showing or the exhibitors who are showing. Yeah. Every single animal that comes through there has to be checked, and that is a 24-hour process. They've done it in the rain, in the cold, and whatever it is. It's not always pleasant, but what keeps every volunteer going is the bottom line of why we do it.
And why we do it is, of course, celebrating the city. And of course, the kids, there's scholarships on the line. There's so much educational stuff as well at the rodeo. And again, it's just, it's this pride of H-Town, right? This rodeo is everything to us. This is going to be a fun rodeo month. And thank you again for having me on Great Day Houston. It's always a blast. Thank you for taking some time out and joining us here on the podcast as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and giddy up.
That was Deborah Duncan, host of Great Day Houston at KHOU, and we recorded this at the station studio, so a big thank you to the entire staff for letting us crash their party and recording this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with 3 friends who love the rodeo and drop us a rating and review. And of course, subscribe to the podcast and also our daily newsletter, Hey Houston, for even more news and tips. All right, before we go, I have a great tip for you to keep rodeo season going all year long, because if there's one thing a real Texan knows, is that we are all about good food, from barbecue to tacos. And here's the thing, 1 taco or 3 tacos, it's never enough. So head over to Bryan, Texas, where they have a taco trail that's over 40 places long. You can check out destinationbryan.com to find that starting point of the Bryan Taco Trail and tell me which taco is the best in Aggieland. And don't go anywhere, because next we've got a segment sponsored by Destination Bryan. I'm chatting with Lena Adams about why her hometown is the perfect spot for Houstonians looking for a weekend getaway. Hey, Lena, what's up? Welcome in.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing all right. So Bryan, Texas is actually your hometown. So I'm going to ask you one of the hardest questions right out the gate. What is your favorite thing about Bryan?
Oh my gosh, that really is a hard question. Honestly, I think this time of year, I love spring in Bryan. It is just a beautiful time. All the wildflowers come out. It's a great time to just go downtown, go shopping. We have this amazing custom hat shop that I absolutely adore. And then we also have an awesome farm to table restaurant that changes their menu depending on the season. And so springtime, they have some really cool dishes, and I just love it.
Oh, that is so much fun. And you also have a great music scene in Bryan, and there are 2 events that are coming up. You got Big Barn Dance coming up first, which is going to be incredible. It's going to be all outside. There's going to be a huge dance floor, or a dance hall like area set up in the music festival grounds. What can people expect from this festival?
Yeah, it's a really unique music festival. I have not seen anything like it before. So it is a listening room by day, dance floor by night. So for people who want to really sit and enjoy the music, they'll have that option during the daytime. And then at night, it turns into a dance floor. So all those who love to two-step, you can two-step your heart out, which is so much fun.
That is going to be so cool. And then in May, you've got another one coming up, the Troubadour Festival. Who's performing at that one?
Yeah, we have some awesome people performing there. So Shane Smith and the Saints, we have Randy Rogers and Wade Bowen, and some other amazing artists that are going to be there that weekend.
And there's going to be a pre-party as well right before the official festival. So you get to warm up and then head to the festival. What's entailed in that pre-party?
So the pre-party is super awesome. It is a free concert to kick off the Troubadour Festival. So it'll be on May 16th, the night before. We'll have live music, we'll have activities, and we'll have more food. It'll be great.
Okay, speaking of food, one of my favorite things about music festivals is the food, right?
Yeah.
It can make or break your festival experience. Tell me, what can we expect when it comes to food? Is it going to be world-class barbecue? What are we thinking here?
Yes. So we actually have some barbecue joints that were recognized recently in the Michelin Guide when the Michelin Guide came to Texas. So there are going to be dozens and dozens of amazing barbecue places that'll be represented with some awesome food from chicken, brisket, sausage, you name it, it'll be there.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we've got food covered, music covered. You got custom cowboy hats covered as well. There's got to be some other stuff. I heard there's a wine and rose festival in April. Now, I don't drink, so I've never been to a wine festival. And for our listeners who haven't either, what does it entail?
Yeah, so there's going to be so many awesome things happening that weekend. So I'm not a big drinker myself, but they have things like classes that you can partake in, learning how to make your own wine-themed charcuterie boards, or you can learn how rosé is made. I don't know how rosé is made, but I'm very eager to find out. You can shop local vendors. You can do grape stomps. You can try over like 60 different wines that weekend. It's going to be really cool.
Now, is this a family-friendly event?
It is. So Messina Hoff is a family-run business, and so they're big on making sure that the whole family can come have fun. So kids especially love the grape stomping. I mean, how could you not? It's so much fun. And then you can also, enjoy the winery is so beautiful to just walk around. They have a beautiful lake. It's a great time.
That sounds like a blast. Now, I started this with a tough question. I'm going to end it with probably an even tougher one. Now, y'all are saying in Bryan, y'all have got the best tacos in Texas. Now, it's a pretty bold claim, okay? Where should we go for tacos? Tell me, where are we going? What are we ordering?
So Texas Monthly actually featured one of our local taco spots, Taqueria Poblana, who was featured in their Tacopedia for tacos al pastor. And so definitely would highly recommend that place. It is so fantastic. If you're looking for unique tacos, we have the Taco Trail, which is awesome. It has over 40 different locally owned taco spots in town, which is a lot of tacos. But I mean, we're Texans. How could you not love tacos?
Yeah.
So there's really truly something different and unique that everyone could find on that.
All right. That sounds like a great time. Tacos, music, cowboy hats. And by the way, all of this information is at destinationbryan.com. What else can people find on the website?
You can find everything, everything from places to eat, places to shop, things to do. We have an extensive event calendar. So if you're in town one weekend and you're like, hey, what's going on? Check it out. Everything is there for you.
Lena, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That will do it for this week here on CityCast Houston. Our producers this week were Selena C.A. Reynolds, Natalie Rivera, and of course, Carlignon Jones. Our newsletter editor is Brooke Lewis, and our executive producer is Laura Eisensee. I'm your host, Rihil Ramzanali. Our music is by the band All the Kimonos. We'll be back on Monday to talk about what Apple's new AI facility in Houston means for our local economy and jobs. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new.
I want to learn how to rope and
See, there you go.
ride. Yodeling.